Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, fans. This is Battlefield 1, and today's weapon duel will be taking a closer look at the MP18 Trench and the Ribeyrolles 1918 Factory. We're going to be taking a look at the stats, the relative performance of these weapons, both to each other and to the wider Battlefield weapon balance, and of course try and figure out which of these weapons is best for which situation and which combat distance. With that being said, let's start off with the stats of the weapons as we always do, with a maximum damage of 23 and a minimum damage of 13.5. The MP18 Trench is going to get you a 5-shot kill all the way out to 22 meters, from which point onwards it's going to require 6, 7, and eventually from a distance of 39 meters onwards, actually 8 bullets to down your target. Its fire rate, of course, identical to the Ribeyrolles 1918 Factory and the lowest in the SMG category at 550 rounds per minute, is still pretty good for close quarter engagements. It should however be noted that it will lose in a one-on-one, at least at certain distances, to both the Automatico, any of the available shotguns, or of course the Hell Regal. The muzzle velocity of the gun is relatively miserable at 420 meters per second, obviously indicating A, that it is an SMG, and B, it is really thought for close quarters and medium range, and certainly not long range moving target acquisition. The magazine size at 32 is relatively generous, good enough for probably 2, more likely 3 targets in most situations. Its reload is relatively good, short reload at 2.1, long reload 2.96 seconds. However, these weapons don't differentiate themselves too much on the reload side of things. Recoil on the MP18 is relatively good, at least much better than it was when the weapon was first introduced, with vertical recoil of 0.35 and horizontal recoil, that is to the left and right, of 0.23, as well as a first shot recoil multiplier at 1.8. The gun doesn't exactly have no recoil, but it certainly doesn't bounce too much, and as long as your aim is accurate, you shouldn't find yourself having too much of a difficulty actually hitting targets from a recoil perspective at both close and medium range. Spread on the SMGs is of course a notorious problem. That is to say, it quickly gets out of control, with a base ADS for the MP18 that's while aiming down sight and not moving of 0.3, and ADS while moving of 0.5, and hipfire while standing and moving at 1.0. The accuracy values are relatively good. What you of course have to take into account, however, is that you have a first shot multiplier on your spread, meaning of course that while your first shot may shoot with a relatively decent accuracy of 0.3, this spread is quickly going to increase. An interesting thing to note about this weapon, by the way, is that not only has it got very good hipfire, but the spread increased. The first shot spread multiplier on this weapon for hipfire, different from its normal first shot spread multiplier for ADS, is actually 1. In other words, while your hipfire isn't of course as accurate as your ADS aim, it is relatively accurate and stays consistently accurate, only slowly increasing its spread shot by shot. With the MP18 then out of the way, let's move on to the Ribeyrolles 1918 Factory, of course a DLC weapon introduced by the They Shall Not Pass DLC. The stats of the Ribeyrolles 1918 Factory then: a maximum damage here of 23 and minimum damage of 15, a little bit of an interesting damage model for SMGs, slightly more favorable to the medium range combat, meaning that you'll get a 5-shot kill all the way out to 28 meters, a 6-shot kill all the way out to 38 meters, and from that point onwards you will require 7 instead of the usual 8 bullets to down your target. Its muzzle velocity 520 meters per second, not great, still better than that of the MP18s. Its magazine size slightly smaller than that of the MP18s at 25, still plentiful really to take out 2 targets in most situations. Its reload as the MP18's very favorable, with a short reload of 2.1 seconds, that's of course with 1 or more bullets left, and a long reload at 2.76, 6 seconds, also not too shabby. Its recoil is different from the MP18's in that it's slightly higher in the vertical recoil department at 0.42, however significantly lower in the horizontal recoil department at 0.16 to the left and to the right, as well as a first shot recoil multiplier of 1.3, making tap firing, if you for some reason want to tap fire the SMG, a lot more viable on the Ribeyrolles when compared to the MP18. Its spread model is relatively typical for the SMG category, with the exception of its base ADS. Aiming down sight while not moving at 0.18, it is actually unusually accurate. However, the rest of the stats really are similar to what you would expect from this kind of SMG. ADS while moving of 0.57, worse than that of the MP18, and of course significantly worse hipfire at 2.25, and not a first shot spread multiplier for the hipfire of 1, but the usual for this weapon of 4, meaning that the hipfire not only starts off less accurate, but it becomes even less accurate faster when compared to that of the MP18s. With that out of the way then, let's start taking a look at the weapons and what makes them unique. Which combat distances do they excel at? Well, the MP18 is really a jack of all trades for an SMG category class weapon. It's got a relatively low fire rate with relatively decent recoil, meaning it's relatively decent at medium range engagements. However, it also has excellent hipfire, making up for its low fire rate, at least to a certain extent in close quarter combat. It's obviously still not going to be able to keep up with an Automatica or a shotgun, and under 10 meters, probably also not with a Hellriegel. However, in situations other than that, it likely will beat the Hellriegel if you've got decent accuracy, and of course will beat the Ribeyrolles in pretty much any situation thanks to its superior hipfire. The Ribeyrolles, on the other hand, has a jack of interesting stats, all pointing towards medium range combat. Relatively low horizontal recoil is the first of those, a relatively good ADS accuracy instead of hipfire accuracy, once more sporting its abilities at medium range. Furthermore, of course, the option of a bipod, while only situationally useful, in situations where you can use it, this will extend the range of your gun quite significantly, actually all the way out to what is encroaching on long range. That is the power of the bipod in Battlefield 1. With those two weapons then clearly defined, how do they compare to each other and which one should you be choosing when? Well, the MP18 and the Ribeyrolles may initially seem like relatively similar weapons. Similar reload times, similar muzzle velocities, identical fire rates, of course. However, the differences in accuracy and recoil make actually for two very different weapons. The Ribeyrolles is your choice for medium range combat. The MP18 should be your choice when you're looking for a flexible yet nevertheless focused on close quarter weapon. It's not going to be able to compete with the Ribeyrolles at medium range. On the other hand, the Ribeyrolles is not going to be able to compete with the MP18 in close quarter combat. With that being said, I'd like to know about your opinion regarding the MP18 Trench and the Ribeyrolles 1918 Factory. Do you have a clear preference, or are you more like me and think that these two weapons are relatively different in their ideal application and are thus really difficult to compare? You'll be using whichever weapon best suits either your playstyle or the combat engagement distance that you are facing on any given map at any given time on any given game mode. Leave that down below in the comments, as well as of course your usual Battlefield 1 video suggestions. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 1 video.